Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by World Series of Fighting Lightweight TJ O'Brien. TJ, how are you?
Oh, doing pretty good, Mike. Pretty hot here, and I'm getting ready to go get a workout in the heat.
TJ, you got a fight coming up July 5th at World Series of Fighting 11. I'm just curious, is today the last day of hard training?
Actually, we had some bad news, and had to pull out of that fight for World Series of Fighting. Had a reoccurring injury that's pulled me out of the fight, unfortunately, with only about a week's notice, or a little less than a week's notice. I pretty much took the fight, and then about a week later, I had to pull the plug. We went back to the doc, and they said that it's not going to be ready to go in time. It's just something small but reoccurring, and they advised taking the fight on 2 weeks' notice, and then it being reoccurring probably wasn't going to be the best idea for me.
I see. Now, what exactly is the injury? I mean, you said it was minor, but is it a hand? Is it a knee? Is it a shoulder? What's the injury?
Yeah, it's my hand. Well, my left thumb to be specific, but I cracked it about 3 months ago and kept going through a training camp. I just fought Jacob Volkman
right.
a little over a month ago, and I went through with that fight, even still not being able to fully grip with the hand, and I thought about a month off would have given it time to heal. We got x-rays on it, and everything's negative, but there's just a lot of clouding around the left joint, bottom joint of my thumb, and it's just not healing like we thought it was going to heal. And I went back to training, and within the first week, it was already back to the point where I wasn't able to grip anything again. So we had to pull the plug.
Mm-hmm. You said it's a recurring injury. When exactly did it happen? How long ago does this injury date back to?
Well, unfortunately, I'm like with a lot of fighters, hand issues are kind of an ongoing thing, and it's been ongoing off and on probably for as long as I can remember, but it really flared up. I was sparring with a guy, and I think it was late January, early February, and I threw a left hook to the body, and he blocked it with his elbow, and it just, everybody in the gym heard it crack, but I held off on the x-rays, and I went in, and they still said there was nothing wrong with it. It looks, to be honest with you, it sticks out a little bit. It almost looks, it doesn't look right. You can tell by looking at it, but there's no breaks in it. But again, I guess a month off didn't give enough time to heal up. And I never really take too much time off, period. So I don't know if that's what's causing the delay in the healing or not, but we'll figure something out. The doctor said come back in a month, and we'll take a look at it again and see if any of that clouding's gone down. And so that's what I intend to do, and hopefully I'll be able to get good news and be back on one of these World Series cards here shortly.
Mm-hmm. So right now we don't know surgery, no surgery. It's kind of up in the air.
Yeah, no surgery as of yet. I don't think there's going to be any surgery. Like I said, there isn't any major breaks. It's just it's probably developing arthritis, I would imagine, after this many years of fighting and everything else, playing other sports and stuff. And I don't know. It doesn't sound like surgery's anytime, or going to need surgery anytime soon. But I think I just need to have some time to let it heal up, and I'll be back. But right now, it's to the point where I'm starting to be able to grip with it again. So I'm not ready to push it.
Mm-hmm. Now, in the meantime, what is your training looking like without throwing that hand? What are you going to be doing?
Well, I'm doing a little bit of everything, and even without being able to grip, I'm still able to punch pretty good with it, and I'm still able to roll just without making a grip with the one hand or doing variations of grip. So I've been able to keep up my training pretty good. It's just to the point that I'm not able to do things like, in some positions, going for submissions have been real painful, or trying to establish a grip when I'm working up against a wall or working for a takedown, just little things. So, like I said, nothing too serious, but between taking the fight on a couple of weeks' notice and the injury itself slowing down the training, we just pulled the plug on it, and we'll live to fight another day.
Mm-hmm. Now, I might have missed it, but maybe I didn't. When you got the offer from World Series, this injury had already happened, correct?
Yeah, we were coming off trying to let it heal. So, like I said, I fought, I think it was May 9th or something like that.
Right.
And, we thought that we'd have plenty to take it easy and we'd have time to let it heal up and stuff. And they came and offered the fight, and I've been waiting for a fight from them for about 18 months since I signed my original contract. So I was real excited. Took the fight, went back to training, and within a couple days, it was already acting up again. And that's, again, when we had to start pulling the plugs.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm just curious, you brought up the waiting period that you had trying to get a fight from World Series, 18 months. You went without a fight with them. World Series of Fighting 1, you made your debut, and now this was supposed to be World Series of Fighting 11 that you were going to be fighting Luis Palomino on, but now the fight's off. I'm just curious, what was the holdup? Were they that disappointed with the fight against JZ Cavalcante, or was it something where they couldn't fit you in on a card? Because you fought 3 times, so it can't be injuries that you've suffered. So what's been the holdup?
Well, first off, with that fight with JZ, I actually did tear my LCL and my meniscus, so that put me back about 6 months. And so that put a delay, and I went and took a fight. I probably, should have been patient, but I took a fight, and I lost out in Omaha against a tough Drew Dober, who's currently in the UFC.
Right. And
then, so that put me on a 2-fight skid, so I went back into the grind, and but it just pretty much, I know a lot of other people are having the same problem with World Series of Fighting. There's a lot of us underneath contract, especially in the lightweight division. And so, unfortunately, there's only so many fights. I know they're planning on boosting their amount of fights they're having, but I know myself and some other people are slightly frustrated with the lack of fights we were getting, or even offers. And like I said, this fight, after 18 months of not getting a fight, the first fight I get on 2 weeks' notice, so it wasn't an ideal situation from the get-go. But my contract's supposed to be up with them in November, so I really hope that I'll be able to get a fight with them before then.
Mm-hmm. So there had been no offers from World Series of Fighting 1 till they called you on short notice to take the fight against Palomino. There was just no offers at all? They never contacted you?
Yeah, exactly. And we actually spoke with them the night after, or the day that I fought Jacob Volkman, and they were real excited about the win, because he's also under contract with them. And obviously at the time, I think he was ranked like 43 in the world, and so they were real excited about that. And I ended up submitted him in 2 minutes or so, and they said they were going to have me, and then it kind of went crickets on their end. We didn't hear from them for a while, and then eventually, out of nowhere, we got this offer. And like I said, I was real excited about it. I've been wanting to fight for him, and we jumped on it, and then we might have jumped on it just a little bit too soon because we got back to training, and things just weren't going to click in time for that short notice fight.
Mm-hmm. I see. And World Series of Fighting, they were cool with the Volkman fight because, like you mentioned, you and him are both under contract. Were they, they signed off on it obviously because you're 2 guys under contract. But a lot of people were thinking, why isn't this fight taking place on NBC Sports Network or on the undercard somewhere? 2 guys that have a good name in the sport. Why aren't these guys fighting on a big stage? They were okay with that, and were you okay with that? Were you like, you're signing off on this fight? Why can't we make it in World Series of Fighting?
A lot of people ask that same question. It's a very high quality fight,
right?
And we ended up doing it on a smaller show, but yeah, it was a real high quality fight that would have been perfect for at least an undercard with World Series. But like I said, I don't know if you've seen how many people they've been signing. There's so many contracts out there, and a lot of other people are retiring even under these contracts that aren't being used, and a lot of people have been sitting under contract without any fights. So. At least I got one out of it and an offer, because I know some people that haven't got anything. So it's frustrating to say the least. I think we've got things ironed out now, and they're going to get me a fight when I'm ready to fight. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, that Volkman fight, I would have liked to really showcase my skills with that Volkman fight on a bigger stage.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm. I hear you. Now, I brought it up earlier, the JZ Cavalcante fight. How big of a factor do you think that's playing in why they didn't offer you a fight till now? Do you think that's playing any role in it? I mean, maybe not if you would have won that fight, but maybe if it would have went to a decision and been a back and forth fight, do you think you would have got more calls from them?
I might have, but I know just looking at the people from the original card and a lot of people that have fought for him, if you lose, period, you're looking at some bench time. They've had, so let's see. So this is World Series 10, and I fought World Series 1 in November, almost 18 months ago. So that's less than one fight a month, almost a fight every other month at most, and that's including the international events and stuff like that. So there just hasn't been the fights there, period, for spots for them to fill. I know with this new NBC deal, they're hoping to have more fights and what have you, so hopefully they'll be able to keep a lot of us busy. But I know some other fighters have heard the same thing from World Series, and that's okay. That it's okay for them to take fights outside of the organization. I was contacted by another promotion who found out that I was under contract with World Series when we started working on lining up a fight, and they weren't able to move forward anymore. So hopefully, like I said, in November my contract's up. Hopefully I have a fight by then. If not, then we'll have to look at doing something else. But we'll find out when it comes to November.
Mm-hmm. So, if you had to say in terms of percentages, how much loyalty do you have to World Series of Fighting? Like, if they don't get you a fight in November, is it basically the door's shut and you'll look elsewhere? Are you still hoping that maybe beyond this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there isn't my loyalty there is they're my boss right now, but come November or whenever my contract's up with them, we did receive something about an extension because of the injury. Once I'm cleared by the doctor, if I submit my doctor work, and then they'll extend it. Anyways, long story short, hopefully in November I'm out my contract with them. If I get a fight with them and win here before November, we'll absolutely look into staying with them. But we got to stay busy, and unfortunately fighting, getting fight offers every 4 months or even less than that isn't going to cut it. We're gonna stay busy. So the ultimate goal is to get back to the UFC. I think that's always everybody's ultimate goal. But we'll see what happens with World Series, I guess.
Right. Now, there's a lot of guys out there who are signed with World Series Fighting, like you've mentioned, guys who are unhappy with the way things are going, and they're even more upset because they've had to turn down fights from local shows. Managers and promoters out there don't really know what their contract status is and then offer them fights or present them fights, not knowing if they're with World Series or not, and they have to tell them no because, hey, I'm signed with World Series of Fighting, I can't take this fight with you guys. How many of those fights have you had where guys have tried to offer you and then you said, I can't take this fight, I got to get permission from them? Like, have you lost out on a lot of fights being with them?
No, to be honest, it was just one contract. It was with a bigger promotion, and the promotion is real considerate about what they did be considered tampering, discussing terms with us. So I don't want to say the name of the promotion, but there is only one big promotion that I turned down. In these smaller shows, World Series is real lenient on letting us fight with these smaller shows. And I know that's not just me. I've spoken with other people under contract with them that they're not keeping busy, that they said that they've got no problem with them taking smaller shows, which is great of them and nice. But obviously when we're under contract with that promotion, that's the promotion we'd like to fight for.
Right. I hear you. Now, I'm just curious, where are you training at these days?
I'm in Des Moines, Iowa here. We're actually been looking at different gyms. We're possibly considering moving the camp up to Milwaukee to check out Rufus, and then we also have Grindhouse on our radar. So I think that's going to be my summer project, is figuring out where we're going to transition to. Unfortunately, a lot of the training partners I had in Des Moines here moved out to San Diego, and so I'm going to have to look into something else, because right now the teammates aren't really the level that I need to compete with the best guys in the world. I don't think so. We're going to be looking to relocate. It's just where we're going to relocate. We would like to stay here in the Midwest, but we'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it depressing? Like, Iowa for a long time with MFS was such a hotbed. You had all the best guys in the world training in Iowa. Now, there's not that much talent out there for you to work with. Like you said, all these guys are going to these different spots. When you look at the scene there, what's it like? Is it anything like it once was? Is there still high quality guys around anywhere? Like, in a radius of you? Is there anybody there?
Yeah, it is. It is frustrating, and it's definitely nothing like it used to be. There is good training partners around. There's guys that you might not necessarily recognize as a name, but there are guys that have been training for 10, 15 years plus in jiu-jitsu or in their particular art. And obviously wrestling here in Iowa is a wrestling hotbed, so we get a lot of good wrestling, and it's just there isn't the training partners. There's at least here in Des Moines, there's a lot more bigger guys than I need to be going with. I need the speed, and I need the 45ers, the 55ers, and it seems like all the higher quality guys that are still in here from Des Moines are 170 and above, and that's great, but I also, I'm not easy on a little guy's body to be going with those big guys all the time.
Now, you mentioned Grindhouse and Rufus Sport. Why those two? Is it location, or is it the room they have there? Obviously they have great coaching, and the guys that you would work with at either spot are high quality wherever you go. So why'd you decide on those two? Why have you narrowed it down to those two camps as possible moving spots for you?
A lot has to do with location, but a lot just has to do with the styles. I like up at Rufus camp what they do with the lankier athletic guys.
Right.
It kind of meets that fits my mold, and obviously their technique and everything is well above average, and so are their fighters. So that's why I'd like to focus on Rufus Sport. But at the same time, down in Grindhouse, I just it's real close to the location I'm at now. I can still stay close to family, and I might even be able to. I know they just recently opened the fighter house, so I'm gonna look into going staying down there and doing cross training between here and Des Moines, because I do have a house and family here in Des Moines, so relocating isn't the easiest thing. So if I could go down there and stay there for 1 week on, 1 week off, or something like that at the fighter house, I think that fit me good. But there's a lot. It's a lot up in the air, a lot of moving pieces, and we'll figure out where we're going to go by the end of the summer.
I see. Now, I was taking a look at your record, and I noticed that you have 20 wins, 19 of them by submission, and then I looked at your losses, and you have 7 losses and 6 by submission. You're such a good ground fighter, you would think that you wouldn't be submitted as many times as you have been. I'm just curious, is that just a product of you play on the ground a lot, and if you play with fire, occasionally you'll get burned? Is that what it is? Is that why you've been submitted so many times?
Yeah, that kind of sums it up. I'm real aggressive with my submissions, and just when I'm stand up on the ground, I'm always looking to finish. So if you're always looking to finish, sometimes you leave spots open. And that's usually what happens. I'm too focused on the finish and put myself in a bad spot occasionally. That's kind of how I fight, and that's, live by it, die by it. I finish fast, and, I can get finished too. Everybody's human. So that's usually why I end up in a bad spot, is because I was going for something that was a little risky. But, there's a lot of risk with reward. So that's the style I'm going to keep.
Now, I think 18 of your 19 submissions are all by chokes. I think you only have one submission that wasn't a choke. I think it was a key lock that you had. I could be wrong. I don't have your record in front of me, but I think you have 18 submissions of your 19 by chokes. Is that what you like? Is that what you go for? Are you one of those guys who prefers the chokes because it's like a definite thing? Like, either if you lock up a choke, you're either tapping or you're going to sleep. Like when somebody locks up an arm bar or a heel hook or something like that, you could potentially fight on. You saw John Jones fight Vitor Belfort, and he was cranking on that arm, and then the arm got kind of messed up, but then John Jones continued to fight and then ended up winning the fight. Are you one of those guys who prefers the chokes because of that reason, that if you don't tap, you're going out, or is it just a coincidence that you've had all these submissions by chokes?
Yeah, I guess I've never really looked at it. I know one of my fights recently, within the last, I think, couple of years, that isn't out there. It was by armbar too, but it's on my other record, on the underground record, not Sure Dog. But it, it's not that I planned it. It's just that's where I ended up. I guess I never really thought about that, but I'll take what they could give me. And if somebody's willing to get their arm broken to get out of a submission, then I'll look to choke them out. But most people are willing to tap if they get in a bad situation like that.
Right. Now, you're 6'2", and I thought you were a little bit taller than 6'2". I thought you were like 6'4". Are you just like basically all arms and legs? Do you have a short torso? Because I thought that you were a lot taller than 6'2".
No, I'm 6'2". I've got real long arms, my leg, and I got a long torso. My legs, people think they're real long, but they're I think relatively to my body, they're probably about average. But my reach is actually 78 inches. So the old test, or the old wise tale, your arms are supposed to be as long as you are tall. I'm about 6 inches off there, or about 4 inches off there. So my arms are really long for somebody that's only 6'2". Obviously, that can be a great advantage, both on the ground and standing up.
Mm-hmm. Now, how long have you been doing jiu-jitsu? Did you start doing that before you got into MMA?
Yeah, but not long before. I've been doing jiu-jitsu now, here for since 2005, so 9 years, I guess. And I probably started fighting that same year. Here in Iowa, it used to be pretty easy to get a fight, and I'd been training jiu-jitsu for a couple months, and a guy told me about a place where you could go fight, and I went up there and fought my first fight, and then was hooked. I got a TKO in like 30 seconds or something like that, and so then I just kept going at it. So there was very little turnaround time from the time I started actually training to the time I started fighting, maybe a couple months at most. But so I kind of started learning on the fly as I went with it. But my style is a lot different than a lot of people's out here. Unfortunately, we don't get too much technique, and I've never really been a technician. It's more of a learn as I go, learn tricks, and my body's so much different than everybody else's. A lot of stuff they show me doesn't work for me, and a lot of stuff I can do, they can't do either. So I've kind of picked up things as I've gone, and from different instructors and all kinds of different martial arts, I guess, and just kind of made my own style with it.
Do you compete in a lot of grappling tournaments?
No. Unfortunately, I don't really have the time to be traveling around doing the grappling tournaments. And here in Des Moines, there's only a couple a year, but it just I don't get to do too much of the gi training either, or the standard Muay Thai classes. It's all MMA focused, wrestling one day, I guess, and it's just not too many, detailed classes, I should say.
Oh, I see. Now, you fought in the UFC. You fought twice. You fought against Paul Kelly and Cole Miller. And then you fought in World Series of Fighting. You fought against Jay-Z. You have a lot of good wins on your record. Just to name two, Jacob Volkman, who you just fought, and then Dakota Cochran. Those are very good wins, and you submitted both of those guys. But when you've gotten on the big stage, the success that we see on the regional circuit hasn't followed. Why do you think that is?
I think it could be a couple different things. No excuses, but nowadays when somebody goes to the UFC, especially making their debut, they try to match them up a lot closer to the talent level they're fighting against, and that's a lot easier nowadays because there's so many shows, so there's so many more spots. But right off the bat, my first fight at UFC, I get to go against, and I've been fighting at 45, and I went up and I fought Paul Kelly at 55, and he obviously a lot more experience in the UFC and the MMA in general. So that was a big step up in competition. And to be honest with you, I just don't think I was ready that first call to the UFC. I had a lot of fights, but not much cage time. And then my second fight after that, I fought another tough veteran in Cole Miller. So nowadays you see them matching guys up with like one or two fights, and they do a lot better job to develop the fighters. Back then there wasn't as many spots, so you kind of got where you get and you fill in where you can, and you either sink or swim. And fortunately, those two fights, the first fight I put on a pretty good showing. The second fight, I guess it was all right, but nowhere near as good as the first. And so I got released, which was well deserved. I thought, like I said, I don't think I was quite ready for the UFC at that point. I think I was, 24 or 23 years old, and like I said, there was a lot of fights, but not much cage time. And I've really grown as a fighter since then. When I took that fight and for World Series, that first fight, Jay-Z jumped onto an ankle lock that he didn't even know what they call it when it was down. It was just kind of a weird thing. I thought I worked my guard way too high, put it in that spot, and he dropped down and took it. And I didn't defend properly, so there's no excuses for that one. But I think, in the next 6 months to a year, I'll definitely be ready to go back to the big show.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that you were 24, not much cage time. It was a little early for you to be fighting in the UFC. Is that looking back on it now, or at the time did you have some doubts? Like, I have to take this call because, when the UFC calls, I got to come running. But is that looking back on it in hindsight that you're saying it's too early, or at the time did you have some doubts?
No, at the time I thought that's where I belonged. I was ready to go, and I had just demolished everybody on the local scene. Every time I fought on the local scene, I just demolished them. So there wasn't really a choice in the matter. It's like you can keep fighting everybody on the local scene and beating them, or you can step up and see where you're at. And we stepped up and saw where I was at, and I just wasn't ready to be where I landed. But when it was going on, I was all for it. I won a bunch of fights in a row and felt invincible. And I had a pretty good show in the first fight. Second fight was all right, but I definitely bit off more than I could chew, I think.
Oh, I see. Now, I'm just curious, how did you get your nickname, the Spider?
That was a long time ago. So about 9 years ago when I first started, just because of my long legs, in the gym I was at, some being, my long limbs, I guess, not just my legs, but that's where it came from. I personally am not a big fan of the name.
Right.
I think it's pretty generic, and, I guess I'm not a big fan of nicknames, period, but it's stuck, and, you can't get rid of it once you have it.
Right. Do you feel kind of weird walking around with the nickname the Spider? Because, Anderson Silva, that's his nickname. Like, our
well, yeah, and there's like 5 other Spiders out there.
Yeah.
This was about 9 years ago, so before he was even, big.
Right.
But there's plenty of Spiders around at the time. And I didn't like it when I got it, and it just stuck, and we went with it, and,
Oh, I see. I hear you. Well, TJ, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Just thanks to Insanity Fightwear. They're a local fight scene here that makes my T-shirts. They take real good care of me. And just a couple local restaurants, the Chicken Coop and Thunderhead Brewery. They take real good care of me as well. And shout out to all my teammates at 22
Well, TJ, get well soon. Hopefully we see you back in the World Series of Fighting Cage in November. And thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it.